Let's start off by talking about your home. What's your favorite thing about your home?
My favorite thing about my home would probably be my dog or my sister. I'm not sure because my dog could be annoying sometimes in the morning. He likes to wake me up. But my sister is almost the same person as me, so I like her company. We like to do a lot of the same things, and we don't have that big of an age gap, so we're similar in age. So we like to share the same hobbies, the same music taste, the same games, and we like a lot of the same things.
What makes your home comfortable?
I don't want to sound like I'm obsessed with my bed, but my bed. I like being in bed. It's super soft. And also my rocking chair.
What would you like to change about your home?
I would like to have more windows in my house because I like the sun and I don't like being outside so much because it's hot. But I like daylight. So if I had more windows in my house, I feel like that would make my house better.
Now let's talk about shopping. Where do you prefer to shop?
I used to love shopping at the mall, but ever since this day and age has been evolving, I like shopping online more.
Do you prefer shopping alone or with others?
I like doing a lot of things with a lot of people, and I've tried shopping alone and I've tried shopping with others. I think that I prefer shopping with others just because I can get their opinion.
What was your last important purchase?
I would consider grocery shopping important. So, food, does that count as an important purchase?
Now let's talk about your free time. What do you like to do in your free time?
I'm currently obsessed with this new game on my Nintendo. So I like playing games.
How often do you spend time with friends?
I'm with friends almost every day. I wouldn't say that I make it a priority, but every day I spend time with my friends, be it going to the gym or even just running errands together or just going for a drive. So I'll say every other day.
What new hobbies would you like to develop in the future?
I do want to get into Pilates, just more into wellness things because I'm super into like active stuff. So like going to the gym is what I'm doing right now. But I want to like expand that by going into like Pilates or yoga, stretching, just like a lot of like breath work, things like that.
Now let's talk about food. What are the most popular foods in your country?
Adobo and pancit are my two personal favorites. And then for dessert, I like halo halo.
Do you like trying new foods?
Yes. One thing that I would say about myself is I'm not afraid to try anything from any country in comparison to anybody else that I've met. But there are some foods that I wouldn't try.
Are there any foods that you really dislike?
So there's balut. I don't know if you are aware of what it is, but it's like an egg, but it's like a fetus of a duck. So that's something that I don't like. A skill that took me a long time to learn is singing. And so the reason why I wanted to learn how to sing is because I wouldn't say it's like a tradition where I'm from in the Philippines, but it's just like I grew up just hearing people sing karaoke all the time. And I always thought like singing is basically just the instrument of a person. And it was beautiful to me. So since I was young, I grew up just watching people singing, well, listening to people singing. And then once I got into school, I think around the 4th or 5th grade, I started going into music class where I would learn instruments. But it was like instruments can do so much, but I feel like the power of the voice is stronger. So I started to have classes where I could learn to sing. And then also I would practice at home with my family, and we had our own karaoke machine. And my sisters were interested in stuff like that too. So we would sing together, or like we'd play, I don't know if you know the game Band Hero. So we'd play like a guitar and drums, and then someone would be the singer, which would usually be me. And another reason why I was motivated to do that when I got older, when I was in school, we used to have like talent shows. I was always like interested in music, so I was in the music side of school, I guess. And So when I was in music class, I would, go to drumming contests, but that was boring. Then I started to go into singing because everybody else around me was singing and I wanted to be that. And then when I got to the talent show, I started doing better and better and better, and I won a couple times. So that motivated me. But then the problem is that I've been inconsistent. Like I would, focus on singing for a few months and then I would stop and then I would go back to it. And so I actually stopped for a few years and then I only just recently started trying to focus on it again.
So we've been talking about a skill that took you a long time to learn, and we're going to continue to talk about learning and learning new skills. What factors determine how quickly someone can learn a new skill? To thank you for watching this video, I want to give you a free course that has helped thousands of students improve their IELTS speaking score. What it's going to do is take you through every single part of the test and give you strategies for part 1, part 2 and part 3, and also allow you to practice at home for free and get feedback. To sign up for that for free, all you have to do is just click the link in the description. Thanks very much, and let's get back to the video.
So I think, confidence, and then like the drive to want to do something, like if you're interested in it or not, and then also being consistent.
Why do some people give up when learning something difficult?
I think one of the biggest factors would be comparison. Let's say if you wanted to learn a sport and you're with other people that are good at the sport, or for example, when I mentioned singing, like everybody around me was doing it and they were already good at it. And so if I'm participating in competitions and other people are doing better than me and I keep trying and trying, it makes me feel demotivated because I compare myself to other people.
What role does natural talent play in mastering a skill?
I think that's an interesting one because I'm half Filipino, people think that I'm just naturally musically inclined, where it's like I was blessed with this talent. But I don't know if I agree, because I don't know if it's because I'm half or not. But when you're consistent, it may be easier and then it runs through your family. But consistency is what drives. Oh my God, why was this hard for me? I need to think of my answer. I don't know why does natural being blessed with affect it? Because then I would be discrediting myself. I would just say, oh, okay, whatever I said. Just makes it easier.
How important is having a good teacher when learning something new?
I learned that having a good teacher is very important when you want to learn something, because personally, in school, I struggled with math and I had tutor lessons, and then I would also just like stay late after school with my teacher. But I never passed the class until I took lessons with my best friend. And so because we had a good relationship and like I felt like she could understand me, I think that it's super important.
Why do some old skills remain relevant despite technological advances?
So because technology is advancing by the day, everybody feels like, okay, the world is just becoming technology focused. There are some talents that are purely where only humans can do them. So I think that, they're still important.
Okay, so let me give you some feedback. So I'm going to talk about part 1, part 2, and part 3, give you some general strategies and tactics to improve those areas. And then we'll talk about your individual marks, your band scores for the individual marking criteria. So part 1, to thank you for making it this far in the video, I want to give you 10% off our VIP course. The IELTS VIP course is the most successful IELTS course in the world. That is a fact because we have more Band 7, 8 and 9 success stories than any other IELTS course in the entire world. We do that by simplifying the whole IELTS process, supporting you with some of the best IELTS teachers in the world, and being with you every step of the way until you get the score that you need. All you have to do is just look down in the description, just click that, and you can sign up. If you have any questions about the VIP course, always feel free to get in touch with us. We answer 100% of the questions that we get. Hope that you become a VIP. If not, enjoy the rest of this free video. Part 1, pretty good. Sometimes a little short. You could have expanded your answers a little more. I noticed that when you're talking about your friends or your family, you're far more fluent than when you're talking about more abstract concepts. It seems as if you find it very easy to talk about things that you love. So I would steer the conversation towards those things. Most of the questions are quite vague at times, such as your home, your shopping habits, your free time. When you involved your dog or your sister or your friends in those, you were able to expand your answers a lot more and you spoke a lot more fluently. Now, you weren't not fluent, right? You were very fluent, but it is a test. And the examiner wants you to expand your answers a little bit more so they can judge your fluency and your grammar especially. So I don't think you will have any problems with part 1, but if you can't talk about someone you love or something you love, just try and steer it towards something like an activity or an object or whatever that you're very familiar with, because it seems that's your comfort zone. Part 2, again, I really like the way you used a personal story. I would always recommend that you try and do this, that you don't try and make something up or talk about something just that's more high level or academic to impress the examiner, because you are highly fluent when you're talking about things that you enjoy, real stories from your life. So always try and use real examples and real stories. I had no problem with part 2 at all. Part 3, you struggle a little bit more. I find that people who use real scenarios and real life things, when you switch gears and you ask them to think about more abstract, more academic things, it's not a criticism that they're not as fluent. It's not that you didn't answer the questions, but you could tell that you just didn't know what to say at times. So what I would do for you in part 3 is, again, I would try and use real examples. These could be real examples from your life or personal stories about your real life. So what factors determine how quickly someone can learn a new skill? Talk about, singing, for example. You can mention that again, or playing the drums, or I don't know what you're into, or maybe it's something that you and your sister were learning. What role does natural talent play in mastering a skill? I really like the way that you used that you're part Filipino, and they're very famous for being musically inclined. You did lose track halfway through there, because I think you were you were going into talking more about culture and genetics and all these different things, and whereas I think you could just talk about, like, do you have cousins in the Philippines who are great at doing, or on the other side of your family, are they not musically inclined at all? But then I asked you about a teacher, and you immediately started talking about your friend, and you were great. I mean, so this is why I know I'm repeating myself. Everybody's different, and for you, I think the best way to get one of the highest marks is just to keep talking about those people that you care about. Let's now talk about your individual marks. So I think your biggest strength, one of your biggest strengths, is your pronunciation. You didn't grow up in an English-speaking country, but you sound better than a lot of people who grew up in an English-speaking country. Not just do I understand you, not just accent, but your intonation and your sentence stress is very, very natural. You convey a lot of meaning through your intonation, your voice going up or your voice going down. When you're listing things, you're doing that. And then you also use connected speech sometimes very well. So I would give you a band 9 for your pronunciation. It is excellent. There is one area that I think you need to work on. We'll talk about that in a second, but let's talk about your other strengths. Your vocabulary is excellent. You use idiomatic vocabulary very, very well, such as this. And you also use very high-level topic-specific vocabulary, such as this. You also use words very precisely and very appropriately. There's some times where you used simpler words, and then there's other times where you had to use more advanced words like musically inclined. You could have said something like, Filipinos are good at music, but a more advanced way of saying that is they are more musically inclined, and that is a more specific, topic-specific, accurate term. But the good thing is that you're not a try-hard. You're not trying to use words like that in every single sentence, but because you don't need to. You choose the right times to use very high-level vocabulary when it helps you convey meaning. Grammar, you have no problem discussing any scenario, and I didn't hear any grammatical errors. There might have been a few little slips in there that I missed, but no problem there. So band 9 for grammar, band 9 for vocabulary. 999 so far. So less than 1% of people in the world who do the IELTS test get a band 9. So it all comes down to the final part. You haven't got a band 9 yet. Let's see if we can help you with that part, which is fluency and coherence. Fluency and coherence is in one band, and you need to get both at a band 9 to get a band 9. So coherence means, did you answer the question? And fluency means, were you able to speak at a natural pace without any hesitations, pauses, audible pauses, things like that? At times, your fluency did stutter a little bit, especially in part 3, where you were trying to think of abstract ideas. That is why I kept saying over and over and over again, just talk about things that you care about. When you start thinking too much, you and then you stop, and that will happen in the real test, because they will throw very difficult questions at you in part 3 because they think you're good. If they think that you are like at a band 6 or a band 7, they won't ask you many difficult questions in part 3. But if they think this person might be a band 8, band 9, they will throw very difficult questions at you to stretch your ability. You also, I don't know whether you're aware of this, most people aren't, something that people do a lot in modern English is they'll say filler words like, and There's nothing wrong with that.
I try to stop.
No. There's nothing wrong with that. The only time I would say you need to improve that is if you want to speak for a living. Like if you want to be a podcaster, or you want to be a radio presenter or a TV presenter or something like that, then you would really need to work on it. If it's just normal everyday speech, everyone else is doing it around you, so it's not a problem. For the purpose of the IELTS test, I don't think you do it so much that it affects your speech. Everybody does throw in these little fillers. It's not a huge problem, but it does make you less fluent a little bit at times. I noticed that you do it more when you're listing stuff, and then when you're trying to think of a new idea, you do that way. Not a problem, but again, talk about things you're comfortable talking about, because when you do, those things are removed. And then we have coherence, which is, did you answer the question, and did you develop your answer enough? Part 1, some of them were a little short. Part 3, you stopped halfway through sometimes and had to think. The examiner will base your score not on one answer that was a little short in part 1 or one answer in part 3 that you had difficulty with. They will base it on the entirety of your performance. Most answers were fine, were no problem at all. But because some of them were, and because of the fluency issues, you wouldn't get the top score for fluency. You would get a band 8, but you were more than capable of getting a band 9. So I think if you go and do the test again, you will 100% get a band 9.